We begin tonight in Christchurch. Next month it will be 7 years since the February earthquake that claimed 185 lives, saw parts of the city red zoned and damaged or destroyed thousands of homes. Nikki Ross is still waiting for an insurance settlement. 2,500 days on, her family home still can't be lived in, has no water or sewage connections. They're still paying a mortgage and rates, and they still don't have a payout. They do have a lovely new garden though, as viewers will be able to see it's inside where the floor once was. We're beginning with this tonight because it's a reminder that while much has or is being rebuilt in Christchurch, there are still people waiting to start again. Nikki Ross, who's been diagnosed with melanoma during this period, told me most of the damage to their Woolston home occurred in the February quake, that's 7 years ago, next month. But heavy liquefaction in June 2011 added serious land subsidence to the extensive structural damage.
We were assessed by about 14 different assessors. The first real assessment actually took place before the June earthquake. And by that stage, it was like, no, you're undercapped. We'll come and repair it. Now, this went on for nearly 2 years before and we were pushing back, saying, no, look, we strongly believe what you're coming with isn't correct. In the end, we gave up the initial battle due to the illness and said, yep, just repair us. So in the June of 2013, we agreed to a repair. EQC had proportioned the events over 3 events, and so it said we were under cap and wouldn't hand it on to our insurance company.
Right, so rather than saying you were over cap and a rebuild, they said there were 3 under caps, so that's September, February and then June. So you were dealing with 3, as EQC saw it, you were dealing with 3 different events.
Yep, 3 different claims, and we fought that and said right from the beginning, 10% damage in September, 70% in February, and about 20% from the June earthquake because it was just a liquefaction. But EQC at the time said that was incorrect. They also had in their scope of works that there was no liquefaction under the house whatsoever. And the day before the repair was due to commence, the builders came in and went under the house, and well, they couldn't get under the house. They looked under the house and said, we have no idea what we're going to do about this liquefaction. So it was solidified by this stage, had dropped probably about 30 centimetres from the floorboards, but was still a solid mass of liquefaction under the house. So that delayed the first repair because they had to dig that all out by hand. There was no one available to be able to come and suck it out commercially, so the builders had their labourers dig the liquefaction out from under the house.
And EQC had made an assessment that didn't even acknowledge there was liquefaction there, seemed not to have registered that.
It did not register at all. Their scope of work said there was no liquefaction on the property.
When the material was taken out, how much went? Do you remember in terms of...
Yeah, we were renting 2 doors down. There were 16 full skip bins of liquefaction dug out from under the house.
And EQC hadn't noticed that much material directly beneath your floorboards?
No, you couldn't get under the manhole in the house because it was full to the top with liquefaction.
So how was the assessment done? How was the assessment done, saying that it was okay to stay in that house?
But yeah, well, that was the thing, because we had engineers saying at the time that the house wasn't safe to be in when the front bedroom had attempted to fall off the building. So at one stage we were told we were probably going to be red stickered and then had to be out of the house again. That was towards the end of 2011. But we never heard back, so we stayed in the property. Apparently they put a camera under the floors, and at the time the person doing that scope told us we had very bad news, that the house had come off its piles in some places, but the good news was that there was so much liquefaction under the house it was keeping the house up.
So where are you now, Nikki? And bear in mind, as you know, I'm just saying this for our listeners, you don't need to be reminded of this, next month it will be 7 years since the major earthquake in Christchurch.
7 years down the track, we are at the end of another failed repair. So the house was initially repaired in 2013, only to find out it was a faulty repair. So again, 2013, it took until May 2016 for them to commence the re-repair. The house has now been left abandoned, no floors, no internal walls, since August 2016. EQC have now conceded that they made a mistake at the beginning and the house should have always been a rebuild. And because of that, they have said, yep, we are going to give you a rebuild. It will be managed by us. Our insurance company have said they want nothing to do with it, and that's fair. The insurance company has said this is EQC damage, not earthquake damage, and they're correct. The house is now how it is because of EQC's mistakes. So they have conceded that they have made errors all the way along, and that we will now be able to rebuild. We have been priced, we have plans, we are ready to roll, and EQC have now backed out and said they do not want to be in the business of managing rebuild.
So where does that leave you?
It leaves us exactly where we were 7 years ago, with an uninhabitable house, paying the mortgage on a house that we can't live in, paying the rates on a house that we can't live in.
You're still paying the rates on this property?
Yeah, we're paying full rates because we're not entitled to any reduction because we moved back into the house after the original earthquake series. So we are paying full rates on the property. This week we were served with a council notice that the house is the grounds are a fire risk, so we needed to redeem that. In winter we were served with a notice because there is no drain, there is no water, there is no sewage going into the property, that we were flooding our neighbours. Which is correct, and no fault at all to the neighbours. You've been served
with sorry, who served you with notice?
City Council.
So you're being rated. You're paying rates on the property. Mm-hmm. You have an unresolved insurance situation 7 years on, and now you're being served notice about what?
About the lawns are too long. There is no lawn. It's now just overgrown liquefaction and marks. That the lawns pose a fire risk, and there are no drains to the property. They have all been removed.
You'd love a drain, though, wouldn't you, Nikki? You'd be delighted to have a drain, wouldn't you?
If we could have a drain, if we didn't have to flood our lovely neighbours, it would be fantastic. If we had a house that had services, it would be fantastic. So we're paying rates for a property that has no services connected to the property.
We've got some footage of the property, the inside. You say you don't have a lawn, which on the face of it to me looks like you've got a lovely one inside your living room.
That's a dining room.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I don't want to. For people who are listening on the radio rather than watching this, can you describe what I'm seeing now inside your dining room?
Yeah, well, it's quite a beautiful green area, really, full of weeds almost up to what used to be ceilings. There's no floors, so it's just a muck-filled swamp underneath the house that's growing a variety of different plants throughout the property and inside the property.
I'm going to talk to EQC off the back of this interview, so let's end with you saying what you would like to say to them.
No more delays. We just want this settled. We want a fair and reasonable solution, which is now the value of what it's going to cost us to rebuild on this house. It should no longer be their decision whether we rebuild on that house or we buy somewhere else. Let us cut the ties we have to this anchor. We want to move on with our lives.
Nikki Ross speaking directly to EQC there. So what does EQC have to say in return? Well, and this is worth noting, they did front for an interview. Trish Keith is EQC's General Manager for Customer and Claims.
We've had 2 goes at repairing the property, and both times have been unsuccessful, and unfortunately, and the customers deservedly getting very frustrated. So we are at a point at the moment of working with their private insurer where we are looking to meet the private insurer on site and agree the strategy for a rebuild. Now, either a rebuild is a rebuild or a cash settlement. I understand that the family in their recent dealings with us, excuse me, John, has said that they would appreciate a cash settlement. So we're working with the private insurer to make sure that we can give them a one-off cash settlement.
Right. The rebuild may on the face of it be more expensive than the cash settlement because so much land remediation is required.
So we would have to, our pricing that we have got from a very reputable Canterbury building company includes both demolition of the existing property and the foundation work required to build on that land.
And what sort of figure are we talking about, Trish?
Oh, look, I can't disclose it, John, but it's a substantial amount of money, which is why we have to work with the private insurer to agree the rebuild strategy.
When will there be a meaningful offer, including figures, on the table for Nikki?
I tried to get to that point with my team just before Christmas last year. It would be fair to say I'm expecting that we can get to that point within the next 2 to 3 weeks, but we do need to meet on site with the insurance company. We do need to agree what that rebuild strategy looks like, and we do need to agree what the cash offer is. The other option, if the customer wants it, is we could pay up to cap and then leave the customer to talk with their private insurer, but I believe that the best outcome is if the insurer and ourselves work together with the customer, and maybe even a mediation is required. But let's get to that point if we have to. I'd like to think we can work with their private insurer.
After 7 years. It's 7 years.
I know, John.
How many other people do you think are in this kind of situation? Now, you and I both know that this is an extreme example, but how many other people are still in the kind of limbo, the hell of limbo, that Nikki is in?
Look, I wouldn't want to put a figure on it, John, because then I'd be held to that figure, but there are properties that I could quote you their addresses that I'm working with the team every day on. So there aren't that many of them, but as you say, they're extreme cases, they're difficult sites, and we've had a go at repairing them when, quite frankly, previously we should have possibly not done that.
Yes, you say they're difficult sites, and that is the material point, isn't it? Actually, if somebody, and I'm not holding you responsible, Trish, but clearly the buck does stop with EQC, if someone had done the rigorous and forensic work that EQC exists to do, you wouldn't have actually attempted to rebuild here, would you, without land remediation?
No, you wouldn't have, not on this particular property. You know, it's a known issue in this particular property.
So what do you say to Nikki? What do you say to her boy who starts intermediate school today and who was 4 years old when the February earthquake happened and hasn't had a home as such throughout those 7 years?
Oh, look, I apologise unreservedly to Nikki and to her boy, and it is just so unfortunate that we are so far down this track. I think we did the first repair in 2012 that failed. We had another crack at it, and since July 2016, our customer has been in temporary accommodation, which is, it might be quite adequate, but temporary accommodation's never your home.
That is Trish Keith, EQC's General Manager for Customer and Claims. We will update you once a figure has been settled upon and a deal has been done.